I want you to take a moment, imagine standing at a crossroads. Everything behind you whispers of struggle, maybe even heartbreak, and you're wondering if there's more ahead than what you've left behind. Perhaps you're tired of climbing mountains that seem to get steeper with every step. Or maybe you've caught a glimpse of a grander purpose and are longing for the door's opportunity to swing wide in your favor. I'm here to tell you this isn't just an accident. This isn't just your imagination playing tricks on you. When your heart feels restless yet hopeful, when your spirit senses the dawn of a new season, you may be standing on the very threshold of God's favor. That's why we're here together. Because I believe there are clear signs, unmistakable markers that show you're about to walk into a blessing so profound, it will rearrange your destiny. Sometimes, though, we miss these signs because we're too busy doubting ourselves. Sometimes we ignore that gentle pull inside because we're scared of what comes next. We get stuck in cycles of self-sabotage or rely on other people's opinions more than God's promises. We hesitate to believe that good things can really happen for us. We doubt our worthiness and forget that favor isn't about having all the right credentials. It's about God's grace meeting our obedience and perseverance. Tonight, I want to challenge you to lean in. I want you to throw away those fears and open your heart to the possibility that you're on the brink of something extraordinary. Listen carefully to that inner voice that says, "Don't give up yet. I'm not done with you." You feel that sense of urgency in your soul, don't you? That sense that everything might change if you just hold on a little longer. That's the very moment where faith is born. And if you can tap into that faith, you will see doors open in ways you never thought possible. So, this is not a lecture. This is an invitation. An invitation to discover 7 powerful signs that could be unfolding in your life right now. Signs that you're about to step into divine favor in ways you can't imagine. Imagine what happened if you realize these signs in time. Imagine how different your life could look if, instead of turning back, you push forward, fully expecting God's goodness to show up. These signs, they're like bright lights guiding you through a dark hallway. Missing them means you might linger in the darkness, questioning every step. Recognizing them means you move forward with purpose and unshakable confidence. Because when God's favor arrives, it doesn't just bless you, it flows outward, impacting everyone around you. Don't you want that? Don't you crave that kind of transformation? The kind that lifts you beyond your limitations? I know I do. And I believe we all do. So let's make a pact tonight to look deeper, to trust more, and to act on the knowledge that God hasn't brought you this far to leave you. The question is, are you ready to receive it? Are you ready to challenge every doubt that's held you back? Ready to push through every obstacle that says you can't? Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that favor has a peculiar way of finding those who are prepared. You prepare by opening your heart and staying attentive to these 7 signs. Stay tuned. Listen carefully. When you recognize these signs in your own life, my friend, you'll never be the same. This is the moment. This is the time. Let's walk into that favor together, confident, hopeful, and ready for the unexpected outpouring of blessings that have your name on them. You might be wondering how to recognize that favor has you in its sights. The first unmistakable sign is that sense of holy restlessness you can't seem to shake. It's that feeling in your spirit that says you can't settle for ordinary anymore. You might try to ignore it, telling yourself to be grateful for what you have, to be satisfied with the status quo. But let me tell you, that restlessness isn't ingratitude. It's a divine nudge, a gentle yet insistent urging that there's more for you to do, more for you to become. Think about how you feel when you're almost sure you've outgrown your current season. Maybe it's your job that used to challenge you, but now leaves you bored and unfulfilled. Maybe it's a set of relationships that no longer nurture your spirit. Whatever it is, that tug on your heart, that voice inside that keeps whispering, "You were made for more," is one of the strongest indicators that God is preparing something new in your life. Remember David out tending sheep when nobody noticed him. That boy had a stirring inside, an anointing that guided him toward Goliath. He couldn't remain in the fields because the call in his spirit propelled him forward. When you feel that holy restlessness, that is your spirit refusing to remain mediocre, it's as if God himself is saying, "I have something greater for you." But what if you ignore it? If you brush it away, you risk staying stuck in a life that no longer reflects your true potential. You risk never discovering the very place where your gifts and God's purpose align. You might settle into routines, grow cynical, and lose sight of the bigger picture. That's why it's so critical to pay attention when your spirit won't let you rest, to lean into that discomfort instead of running from it. A practical way to recognize this sign is to ask yourself, am I feeling a new passion or curiosity about possibilities I once dismissed? Do I keep seeing glimpses of a future that feels bigger and brighter than what I'm living now? If so, that's no accident. That's your invitation to seek God more fervently. Pray boldly and ask, "Lord, what do you want me to see here?" And then be ready to obey. Because recognizing the sign is one thing, acting on it is another. Don't let fear of change keep you from the transformation that's waiting on the other side. Embrace this holy restlessness by taking small steps forward. Maybe that means picking up a new skill, reaching out to a mentor, or immersing yourself in a community of faith that encourages growth. As you do, you'll sense a renewed energy inside you, a sense of purpose rekindled like a dormant flame that bursts back to life. In that moment, you'll realize that restlessness can be a powerful catalyst for change. It pushes you to question where you are and wonder about where you could be. It forces you to confront what's missing and decide that you won't settle for halfway blessings. And as you do so, you align yourself with an open heart, ready to receive whatever God has in store. If you want to be ready for that favor, honor the restlessness. Don't bury it under excuses or conform to the patterns of complacency. Walk with it, wrestle with it, and pray through it. Because once you start moving forward, that restlessness will transform into clarity and direction. And clarity is one of God's greatest gifts. It shows you where you need to go and who you need to become along the way. When you can accept that a deeper longing might just be heaven's alarm clock waking you up. You stand on the threshold of divine favor. And that leads you to the next sign, because once you embrace the calling, you begin to notice subtle yet consistent confirmations all around you. The second sign is when confirmations and coincidences start showing up in a way that's almost too timely to be accidental. You see, God doesn't do random. He orchestrates moments, lines up people, and arranges circumstances that point you toward your next step. Maybe it's someone giving you the exact you need at just the right time, or a sermon that feels like it was written solely for your situation, or a chance encounter that catapults you toward a new opportunity. When these confirmations appear in clusters, it's God's way of telling you you're on the right path. You can call them coincidences if you like, but I prefer to see them as alignment, a divine alignment that steers you precisely where you need to go. Think about the times in your life when you felt stuck. Then suddenly someone with the right words of encouragement crossed your path. Or how about when you prayed for a sign and within days or even hours, you got clarity through a conversation, a message, or a sequence of events that felt too perfect to be mere luck? That's what I'm talking about. When you're about to walk into God's favor, these moments accelerate. They come one after another, building a pattern you can't deny. But here's the thing: you have to stay alert. If you're too busy or too skeptical, you might shrug them off. You might say, that was just a coincidence, or they didn't really mean anything by that. You risk dismissing the very signals that could confirm your next move. God doesn't always speak in thunderous voices. Sometimes he whispers through everyday situations. Ignoring these confirmations can lead to spiritual deafness, a state where you can't hear God even when he's practically shouting. And that's where many of us get derailed. We demand some grand spectacle while overlooking the gentle nudges he offers in the little things. So how do you lean in and recognize these confirmations? One practical way is to journal. Write down those incidents that seem oddly synchronized, the ones that prick your heart or make your spirit leap with recognition. Pay attention to repeated themes, repeated words, or repeated impressions that keep coming your way. If the same message keeps finding you in different forms, through a friend, a sermon, a random social media post, don't ignore it. Another approach is to share your experience with a trusted friend or spiritual mentor who can help you see patterns you might miss on your own. Remember, biblical stories are filled with coincidences that were actually God's hand at work. Look at Joseph, who just happened to be in prison at the same time as Pharaoh's cupbearer. That's so. Called coincidence led Joseph to a palace. Favor often arrives wrapped in these subtle alignments, and discerning them is key to partnering with God's plan. If you're aligned, you'll see them as open doors or gentle confirmations. If you're distracted, you'll see them as random events and go right back to business as usual. Don't let that happen. This is the season to pay close attention to the rhythms and signs around you. Allow yourself to be guided. When you sense the intangible whisper in your heart and see tangible signs in your environment, something powerful is happening. Your inside world and the outside world are syncing up. That's a clear indication that God's favor is closer than you think. And once you start seeing those confirmations, a boldness can rise up inside you. It's like a new courage that says, I was born for this, and I see that God is showing me the way. This courage propels you forward and unlocks the next sign, because soon you'll find that even the toughest obstacles can't stop you. The third sign might sound a little paradoxical. You start facing intensified opposition. Yes, you heard me right. When the enemy senses you're on the brink of a breakthrough, he often throws everything he has in your path. Roadblocks, doubts, discouragements, whatever it takes to distract you from your destiny. Suddenly, problems appear at home, at work, in your finances, in your friendships. Challenges you've never faced before show up uninvited. Like storms determined to sink your boat before you reach the shore. But here's the deeper truth. Opposition can be a confirmation too. You see, favor disrupts the status quo. It unsettles any forces that thrive in mediocrity or fear. If you were no threat, you wouldn't face the onslaught. So when battles intensify, it might just be that you're standing at the gateway of something magnificent. Let's consider the story of Nehemiah. He set out to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem with a clear vision from God. But the moment he started, opposition from all sides tried to stop the work. Despite insults, threats, and betrayal, he kept his eyes on the purpose. The turmoil wasn't a sign to quit. It was a sign to press on. That's what happens when favor is near. Darkness tries to overshadow your light. If you let it, that opposition can consume you. You might start thinking, if God is with me, why am I facing so many obstacles? But that's exactly the wrong question to ask. A better question is, since God is with me, how will he help me overcome these obstacles? Notice the shift in perspective. You're not focusing on the obstacle itself, but on God's provision. This is crucial because when opposition comes, it can either drive you closer to God or away from him. The choice is yours. If you yield to fear or frustration, you miss the blessing that comes with perseverance. But if you cling to faith, you discover a wellspring of resilience you didn't know you had. One way to handle this intensified opposition is by building a prayer shield around your life. Stay rooted in worship, in gratitude, in reminding yourself of who God says you are. Surround yourself with people who bolster your faith, not drain it. This is the time to identify prayer warriors who can stand with you, encourage you, and keep you accountable. Don't try to handle the battle alone. Sometimes the biggest trick of the enemy is to isolate you, to make you think you're fighting a losing battle in solitude. Refuse that lie. Also, remember that not all opposition comes from an external enemy. Sometimes it's your own doubts and insecurities because the greatest blockade. Watch how you talk to yourself. If your internal dialogue is full of fear and self-criticism, you're giving the opposition a home field advantage. Counter negative thoughts with promises from Scripture, with affirmations of your worth and purpose. You have to fight the good fight boldly, inwardly and outwardly. So, if you're going through intense turbulence right now, consider the possibility that you're closer to favor than ever before. This is not a time to shrink. It's a time to push, to pray, to trust. once you realize that opposition can be a sign rather than a setback, you'll find new strength. You'll see that on the other side of this battle lies the blessing. And that takes us to the next sign, because as you overcome these trials, you often discover a fresh empowerment, a surge of ability, and clarity you never knew you possessed. The fourth sign arrives when newfound abilities or resources suddenly emerge. It's like a door flings open, revealing hidden talents you didn't realize were inside you. Or maybe someone steps into your life, gifting you the resources, time, or guidance you desperately needed. This isn't just serendipity. It's a manifestation of divine provision. When God calls you to something greater, He equips you in ways you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. Look at Moses, who complained he wasn't eloquent enough to confront Pharaoh. But God provided Aaron to speak on his behalf. That partnership was heaven's resource, timed perfectly for the mission. Similarly, you might discover an unexpected knack for leadership, creativity, or empathy that radically changes how you approach your current season. Perhaps you've been afraid to speak in public, and suddenly you find yourself delivering a message that stirs souls and opens doors. Or you might receive an unexpected financial blessing that enables you to invest in a dream you've kept hidden in your heart. These breakthroughs are not coincidences. They're orchestrated signs that you're moving in the right direction. However, with every blessing comes a test of character. When new abilities and resources show up, you can easily become overconfident or complacent. You might start thinking, I got this, and forget to rely on the one who gave you the gift in the first place. Remember, favor isn't a license for ego. It's an invitation to deeper humility and greater responsibility. Use these gifts to serve, to uplift, and to spread hope, not to prop yourself up. Another pitfall is missing the gift altogether because it arrives in a package you didn't expect. Sometimes you're looking for a big, flashy miracle, but the provision comes softly through a friend's advice or a new perspective you gain after a setback. Be open to every form of blessing. An unexpected mentor, a random workshop, a small bonus check. Any of these could be the key to unlocking your next step. So how do you handle this surge of provision? First, acknowledge it as God's doing. That simple act of gratitude helps align your heart with His intentions. Next, steward it wisely. Don't bury your talent out of fear. Invest it, develop it, use it for a purpose bigger than yourself. If you suddenly find you have a voice that resonates with people, then speak truth. If you receive a financial miracle, then pay it forward by blessing others who need help. If a door opens to a new opportunity, step through it prayerfully and boldly. This sign also involves a learning curve. New abilities need practice, new resources require management, and new opportunities demand courage. Embrace the process. You'll find that each step you take in faith expands your capacity to carry what God entrusts to you. You'll grow in confidence, but more importantly, you'll grow in character. People often say they want to see a miracle, but are hesitant to pay the price of stewardship and responsibility that follows. Don't shy away from that responsibility. It's a privilege. It's a sign that God sees something in you worth cultivating. And as you rise to the occasion, you'll discover a sense of fulfillment and alignment that's unshakable. This alignment leads naturally into our fifth sign, because once you start stewarding your God-given gifts effectively, you notice that fear begins to shrink and faith starts to soar. The fifth sign is an unexplainable peace in the midst of chaos. You might still be surrounded by uncertainties. Maybe the storms haven't fully passed yet, but there's a calm in your spirit that defies logic. People around you may ask, "Aren't you worried?" And you find yourself saying, "I'm concerned, but I'm not afraid." This inner peace is often one of the most potent indicators that God's favor is coming. It says, "Even if the winds roar, I trust the one who controls them." Picture Jesus asleep on a boat during a violent storm. His disciples were frantic, but he rested. That's the kind of peace I'm talking about. It's not denial of the situation. It's a deep awareness that you're protected and provided for. When that peace arrives, it's your spirit's way of telling you, we've aligned with God's will. We're exactly where we're supposed to be. But be aware, peace doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you operate from a place of confidence rather than fear. If you lose that peace, it might be a sign you veered off course or started to rely on your own strength. The key is to nurture it. How? By constant communication with God. Prayer, reflection, reading scripture, speaking life over your situation. Spend time listening as well. Sometimes you get so caught up talking that you forget to hear God's gentle reassurance. Be still. Surrender your worries. That's how peace grows. But let's be real, even with God's peace, you might occasionally feel anxiety nipping at your heels. We're human. The difference is that when fear creeps in, you now have a powerful anchor. You've tasted that peace, and you know how to return to it. You say, "Hold on. I'm not going down that path of despair again. I remember God's promises." And so you pray, you worship, you speak out the truth. You fight for your peace, and you win because it's already within you. Another reason this sign is so critical is that peace stands out. People notice it. It becomes a testimony all by itself. They see you walking through challenges that would break most people. Yet here you are, carrying calm in your voice and resolve in your eyes. That becomes a door for sharing your faith, for spreading hope. Peace multiplies that way. When others witness it, they want to know where you got it. And you can point them to the true source. If you find yourself experiencing this tranquility more and more, even in scenarios that used to overwhelm, you understand this. Your heart is making room for the blessings God intends to pour in. You can't receive if your hands and heart are clenched in worry. Peace opens you up. It says, "I trust you to God, do what only you can do." And with that trust comes an aura of expectancy. You start to wake up each day not dreading the future, but excited for it. And that excitement propels you forward, bridging you to our sixth sign, which deals with how your relationships and environment begin to shift in response to the new chapter you're stepping into. The sixth sign is a transformation in your relational and social landscape. You might notice some people quietly exiting your life while new individuals show up, seemingly out of nowhere, bringing fresh perspectives, resources, or support. Sometimes this transition feels painful. People you thought would be with you for the long haul may distance themselves. Perhaps they can't understand the journey you're on, or your growth challenges their comfort zone. Don't panic. This pruning process can actually be God's way of creating space for what's coming. Take a step back and notice how your circle evolves as you draw closer to your calling. If you're stepping into a season of favor, you'll attract those who resonate with your vision, who challenge you to rise higher, who refuse to let you settle for less. Conversely, those who only want to keep you in your past may naturally fade. That's not to say you abandon meaningful friendships or become dismissive of loyalty. But sometimes God rearranges your relationships to align with your future rather than your history. Think of Ruth and Naomi. Ruth's loyalty to Naomi was a divine setup, leading her straight into Boaz's field and eventually into the lineage of King David. Her circle was small, but it was precisely the right circle for her next season. When your environment changes, it's like a signpost blinking. God is making room for something better. Along with changing relationships, you might also feel urged to shift your physical environment. Perhaps you sense it's time to move to a new city, switch churches, or find a new workspace. These transitions can be unsettling, but if you sense God's direction in them, they often precede remarkable breakthroughs. Don't cling to old places out of fear. Let God lead you to the ground where your favor awaits. Practically, this means paying attention to how you feel around certain people or in certain places. Do they uplift you or do they drain you? Do they push you toward your calling or do they keep you stuck in the past? Are you growing in faith or shrinking into doubt? Ask God for wisdom in discerning who and what belongs in your next chapter. That might involve tough conversations or even tears. But trust that a temporary sadness can lead to a long-term blessing. It's also important to manage the emotional side of this shift. You might feel guilt or betrayal for outgrowing certain relationships. That's natural. But remember, you're not rejecting people. You're choosing alignment with your destiny. God can move in their lives separately, just as He's moving in yours. You're just not meant to walk every mile together. It's okay to bless them and move forward. When you trust this process, you'll see how God orchestrates divine connections. The right mentor appears at the right time. The right partner offers you the exact insight you've been missing. A new friend introduces you to an opportunity you'd never have considered. All these changes in your environment and relationships form a tapestry of divine favor. They pave the way for the seventh sign, which is perhaps the most exhilarating of all. Because once your circle, your mindset, and your spirit align, you enter a realm where closed doors suddenly fling wide open, revealing possibilities you only dreamed about. The seventh sign is the unmistakable opening of doors that no human hand can shut. You find yourself stepping into opportunities that align perfectly with your gifts, your passion, and your calling. It's as if someone went before you, unlocking every latch and turning on every light. This is the moment where dreams intersect with reality, and you realize you didn't force anything. God orchestrated it all, and all you had to do was walk through. Think about how Esther was positioned in the palace for such a time as this. She didn't manipulate her way into favor with the king. She was placed there, chosen to be the queen, and then used her influence to save her people. That's the essence of an open door. It's bigger than you. It blesses more than just you. And it often requires boldness to step through. The wonderful yet challenging part of walking through these open doors is the responsibility they carry. New levels mean new devils, as the saying goes. You'll face fresh challenges, but you'll also experience fresh grace to handle them. Don't be paralyzed by the pressure. Embrace it, knowing that the same God who opened the door will empower you to thrive once you're inside. Another feature of these open doors is that they often align so well with your deepest desires that you'll stand in at how perfect the fit seems. This isn't a coincidence. When God designs a door for you, it resonates with who you are at your core. You sense a confirmation in your spirit that says, I was made for this, but you must be ready. Unprepared people can stare at an open door and still miss it because they're too afraid or too distracted. That's why each of the previous signs, holy restlessness, confirmations, overcoming opposition, new abilities, peace, and relational shifts, serves as preparation. They soften your heart, sharpen your focus, and fortify your faith so that when the opportunity arrives, you don't hesitate. You might wonder, how do I know this door is from God? Pray, seek wise counsel. Examine whether the opportunity aligns with what Scripture says about love, integrity, and purpose. If it's pulling you closer to God and not away from Him, if it's stretching your faith instead of crushing it, if it's resonating with your spirit in a deep way, chances are this is your God-ordained moment. Size it. Step forward, even if you feel the trembling in your knees. Because once you take that step, you enter a new chapter of your life, chapter marked by favor, influence, and impact that extends beyond yourself. And that, my friend, is the essence of divine favor. It's not just about you. It's about God using you as a vessel of hope and light in a world desperate for both. Now you've seen the 7 signs. If some of them are already sparking in your life, you should be excited. If you haven't noticed them yet, stay alert. They may come sooner than you think. Each sign is an invitation to press in closer, to trust deeper, and to step forward more courageously. You don't have to wait for another day, another month, or another year to start paying attention. God could be revealing His favor in the smallest detail right now. So let's bring it all together and talk about what it means to move forward. Let's talk about how to carry these signs in our hearts and become the kind of people who don't just talk about favor, but walk in it every single day. Now, as we draw this to a close, let's remember each of these signs and why they matter so deeply. That restless longing inside you is a divine invitation to rise above the mundane and step into a bigger story. Those confirmations and so called coincidences are gentle nudges from heaven telling you you're not alone and not imagining things. The intensified opposition is a backhanded compliment. Your destiny is so crucial that negativity tries to stop you. The sudden emergence of new abilities or resources is God's way of equipping you for a challenge you're not meant to face on your own. The unexplainable peace in chaos stands as a testament that you are anchored in a reality greater than your circumstances. The transformation in your relationships and surrounding signals that God is clearing the path of cluttered influences so you can run without stumbling. And finally, the opening of doors that no human can shut is the culminating evidence. Yes, indeed, you are walking into favor. But let's go deeper into the lessons these signs collectively teach us, because they're not just random events. They are orchestrations meant to shape us. God's favor doesn't just land on anyone. It's looking for receptive hearts, obedient spirits, and willing hands. Every single sign you've heard about demands something from you: attention, perseverance, humility, courage, faith. Without these qualities, you might glimpse the door, but never walk through it. Some people say, if it's God's will, it will just happen. But that's only half the truth. God's will often requires your yes, your action, and your agreement. Faith is not passive. It's active cooperation with the divine. So let's talk about action. You've recognized the signs, or at least know what to watch for. But what do you do next? You start by examining your life with fresh eyes. Ask yourself, where am I restless? Where is God nudging me to move, change, or grow? Are there patterns of confirmation in my conversations, my readings, my encounters? Have I been facing unusual opposition? And could it be that I'm on the threshold of a breakthrough? Am I seeing new talents surfacing? Or have I recently received help or resources that came at just the right moment? Do I feel an inexplicable sense of peace despite the chaos? Are my relationships evolving in unexpected ways? And finally, are there new doors swinging wide in front of me, waiting for me to step through? Confront these questions honestly and prayerfully. Maybe you'll discover you're already standing knee deep in signs of favor, but you didn't realize it. Or maybe you'll find you're at the beginning of the journey, still waiting for confirmations. Either way, you're not behind schedule. God's timing is always perfect. What matters is how you respond when the signs appear. Next, commit yourself to a season of preparation. If you sense favor is on the horizon, act like it. Strengthen your prayer life, deepen your understanding of Scripture, clean up any chaos in your finances, your health, or your relationships that you've been neglecting. Why? Because favor is a gift, and you want to be a good steward of it. If you're praying for a promotion, but haven't bothered to excel in your current position, you're missing the chance to prepare. If you're longing for God to use you but refuse to cultivate discipline and humility, you may not be ready. Use this time of expectancy wisely so that when favor arrives, you won't be scrambling to handle it. God doesn't send blessings to bury you. He sends them to elevate you. Another crucial action step is to share your journey with someone who can hold you accountable. Don't isolate. Find mentors, friends, or spiritual leaders who can guide you, celebrate your wins, and gently correct you when you go astray. God designed us for community. The right voices can keep you on track, especially when opposition tries to derail you or ego tries to inflate you. If you keep these relationships strong, you'll have a safety net of wisdom. Now, here's a call to courage. Knowing the signs and preparing are vital, but at some point you have to step out. Favor might invite you to launch that business, to write that book, to speak that message, to volunteer in that ministry, to say yes to that God-sized dream you've always tucked away. Let's be honest, it's scary. But remember, if the dream was small enough for you to handle alone, it wouldn't be divine favor. God's favor rests on dreams that require His power. So let your fear turn into fuel. Let it remind you that you're not meant to do this alone. You're meant to walk hand in hand with your Creator. And do you know what happens when you finally step out in faith? Doors that seemed impossible begin to swing open. People who doubted you stand amazed. And even you marvel at how all the pieces fit together. You come face to face with the truth that God is faithful. Every sacrifice, every tear, every anxious night spent in prayer becomes worth it. You see how all your trials prepared you, how the lessons shaped you, and how God's favor isn't just an event. It's a journey. And that journey doesn't end once you enter a single door. Favor is perpetual for those who stay aligned with God. It keeps evolving, taking you from one level to the next, because there's always more growth, more impact, more revelation ahead. So don't think this is a one-time deal. You're stepping into a lifestyle of favor, marked by ongoing trust and obedience. And it's not just about you. When you walk in favor, you bless everyone around you. Your family, your community, even strangers who see your example and find hope. That's the ripple effect of a life surrendered to a greater purpose. Now, I want to challenge you with one final call to action. Don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect conditions or the full clarity you think you need. Faith isn't about seeing the whole staircase. It's about taking the first step. Right now, you have enough. Right now, God is with you. Right now, you've got breath in your lungs and purpose in your soul. So why not start now? Reach out for the help you need. Dare to let go of what no longer serves your calling and embrace what God is speaking to your heart. Because the time will never feel perfectly safe, but the reward for stepping out will forever change your life. As we conclude, I leave you with this resonating truth. You were not created to live a life of quiet desperation or endless frustration. You were designed for divine partnership, to walk in the favor that not only elevates you, but illuminates the greatness of the one who called you. Yes, there will be trials, heartbreaks, and uncertainties, but within them lie the seeds of your greatest triumph. So when you recognize the signs, when restlessness beckons, when confirmations align, when opposition intensifies, when new resources emerge, when peace stands guard, when your circle transforms, and when doors open, step forward. Step forward in faith, bold and unafraid, knowing that God's favor is more than a reward for good behavior. It's an invitation into a destiny that will leave a lasting impact. And if at any moment you doubt, remember these words: you are not alone in this. The same power that ignites stars in the heavens resides in you, waiting to bring light into the world in a way only you can. This is your hour. Embrace it. Cherish it. Stand tall in expectation, because miracles unfold when a willing heart meets divine opportunity. Your journey has just begun, and the best truly is yet to come. Go forth and walk boldly into God's favor. I promise you, you'll never be the same again.